After I refused to pay my sister's $40,000 debt, she tried stealing from me. Then my mom showed up, screaming at my office in front of everyone. Hello everyone. I've been hanging out here for a long time, but I've never really shared anything. I never imagined I'd have a reason to, but my family has officially pushed me to my limits. I need to know what others think. It seems that no matter what I do, I am always portrayed as an evil person, and frankly, I'm exhausted. So, this is what has been going on. I'm a 30-year-old male who has been on my own since the age of 18. When I say on my own, I mean it. Financially and emotionally, you name it. Let's just say that my parents aren't exactly known for their parenting skills or sibling support. They were not the type of parents who would encourage you or make you feel unique. Instead, they had an unsaid code that guided my entire childhood. My younger sister Lena could do no wrong, and I was expected to be the responsible one. If Lena made a mistake, and trust me, she did a lot of them, it was quickly forgotten. She's just sensitive, my mother would explain. Or, she'll learn eventually, which was code for, let's pretend this never happened and hope she figures it out. Meanwhile, if I even slipped, it seemed like the sky was collapsing. Why aren't you trying harder? You need to set a better example for your sister. It made no difference what I did. It was never enough. I could send home a report card full of A's, and they'd wonder why I didn't get an A+ in math. But Lena could barely pass, and her response was, "At least you're doing your best, sweetie." That dynamic continued as we grew older. If anything, things grew worse. Lena lived with my parents until she was in her mid-20s, jumping from one failing job to the next and always finding some reason why it wasn't her fault. Meanwhile, I was working 2 part-time jobs to pay for education and figuring out how to manage my own rent and bills. They never offered to help me, not that I expected them to, but it hurt to see them go out of their way to help Lena while leaving me to fend for myself. Anyway, fast forward to 6 months ago. My mother called me. Now, please understand that my mother does not call merely to speak. She does not call to check in or say hello. She calls because she needs something. You understand the type of call I am referring to? The one that begins with a nice, small conversation as if they're attempting to warm you up before revealing the true reason they're calling? That's exactly what occurred. She began with, "How's work? Are you still with that company? Have you been eating well?" It was so out of character that I felt something was going to happen. My mother doesn't care how I eat. She had no idea what I do for a job beyond something with computers. The entire chat sounded forced, as if she was trying too hard to sound casual. Then she struck me with it. Lena is in trouble. I wasn't surprised because Lena is usually in trouble. But I didn't expect this. Lena apparently owed $40,000 in debt, and not the type of debt that can be dismissed as young foolishness, such as student loans or maxed-out credit cards. No, she had borrowed from some pretty dubious people, and they were now serious about getting their money back. My mother's voice cracked as if she were going to cry, which I'm sure she hoped would make me give in. She wasted no time pouring on the guilt. "You've done so well for yourself. You've always been the strong one. Lena's not like you. She needs your help." I sat there for a bit trying to understand what she had just said. How much is $40,000? How does someone accumulate so much debt? I asked her how it happened, partly anticipating some ludicrous explanation, and my mother dismissed it. "That doesn't matter right now," she responded as if I was fixated on the wrong issue. "What matters is that she's your sister. Family helps family." For years they've used the adage "family helps family" as an excuse. It was what they said whenever they needed me to fix something for Lena, cover for her, or clean up the mess she had made. And every time, I swallowed my rage and did what they requested because I didn't want to be the bad person. But at $40,000? I couldn't do it. Not this time. I told her no. Straight up. I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't help Lena out of the mess she made." And the tone of the conversation changed. My mother went from pitiful to pissed in about 2 seconds flat. "You're being selfish," she began yelling. "You're abandoning your family when they need you the most." She even added, "Do you want her blood on your hands?" As if Lena's poor life choices were somehow my fault. At this point I hung up. I couldn't listen to it any longer. My hands shook and my chest tightened, but I knew I'd made the correct decision. I've worked too hard to let someone else's terrible decisions bring me down. Still, the remorse set in almost instantly. My family has a habit of twisting things to make me feel like the evil guy, and this time was no exception. Even though I answered no, I can't shake the sensation that I may have made the wrong decision. Standing up to my family felt appropriate at the moment. But now I'm left wondering if I've just made things worse. What if they are right? What if I am being selfish? And to be honest, I'm still not sure what's next. that call was only the beginning. And what happened next threw me completely off guard. I have a feeling this isn't over, but I'll keep you updated as events unfold. I will provide an update soon. Update 1. Hello everyone. So, I thought things could calm down for a moment. Maybe she would stew for a time before letting it go. Turns out I was way off. The drama escalated quickly and I wasn't prepared for it. It's been a complete disaster and I'm still figuring out how to cope with it. Let me break it down. So, once I hung up on my mom, things got worse. I knew she wouldn't let it go, but I wasn't expecting the level of guilt tripping and pestering that ensued. My phone was continuously blowing up. My mother was the first to respond with texts such as, "We raised you better than this and you'll regret turning your back on your family." My father then chimed in despite his normal silence. His words were brief and to the point such as, "You're better than this," or, "Do the right thing." But Lena went all out. She sent me a lengthy, whiny text about how her life was falling apart and how she did not deserve to be abandoned. She used phrases such as, "I've always looked up to you and now you're just leaving me to suffer. And you're rich. It's not like $40,000 would even make a dent for you." That made me giggle. Rich? Let me tell you, just because I don't live paycheck to paycheck doesn't imply I have a lot of money. The arrogance in her tone was astonishing. I did not respond to any of them. I figured if I ignored it, they'd realize I wasn't going to budge and let it go. A few days later, I received a call from my aunt. She's one of the few family members with whom I get along, so I picked up. She sounded embarrassed, as if she did not want to make the call but felt she had to. She claimed that my mother had been telling everyone in the family that I was refusing to save Lena and allowing her to drown. According to my mother, Lena's life was in jeopardy, and I was simply standing there watching it happen. My aunt did not trust anything I told her, but she wanted to hear my side of the story. I detailed the entire situation, including how Lena got herself in this predicament and wanted me to suddenly cure it. My aunt was astonished but supportive. She told me I wasn't wrong to say no, and Lena deserved to face the consequences of her behavior. Hearing that helped slightly, but the harm had already been done. My mother had circulated the story far and wide, distorting it so that I appeared to be the villain. I began receiving texts from cousins, uncles, and even a few old family friends. Most of them were ambiguous, such as, "You should really think about what family means," or, "You'll regret this one day." Some were downright cruel. One of my relatives accused me of being selfish and behaved as if I was too wonderful for the family. I ignored them all, but the relentless barrage became taxing. The situation then escalated. One afternoon my bank called me. At first I thought it was a scam. Who gets calls from their bank? But the man on the phone explained that someone had attempted to access my accounts using forged identification. They classified it as suspicious because the documents did not match. Fortunately, nothing was taken. I understood immediately who was behind it. Lena. It had to be her. She was desperate. And if she was prepared to involve the entire family, why wouldn't she try to steal from me? I called the bank for more information, but all they could tell me was that my accounts had been temporarily closed as a precaution. I thanked them before hanging up, but I was enraged. This wasn't simply about guilt trips or emotional manipulation anymore. This was criminal. I need answers. Therefore, I'm thinking about contacting Lena personally. What would you do if you were in my position? Thank you for sticking around. I will keep you updated. Update 2. Hello again. Y'all have been waiting for the confrontation news. I apologize for being late. Here's how things went. When I arrived at Lena's place later that evening, I was still angry over my decision to face her. I hadn't told her I was coming. I honestly didn't know what I was going to say. All I knew was that I needed to face her in the eyes and hear her confess what she had done. Perhaps a part of me hoped she'd deny it, to give me some reason to believe my sister wasn't the kind to fall so low. When she answered the door, she appeared shocked to see me, but not in a "what are you doing here" sort of way. It seemed as if she had expected me to show up eventually. She was wearing sweatpants and her hair was tangled, as if she had just rolled out of bed. Not that I cared about her appearance, but it added to the whole feeling that she didn't have her life together. "What are you doing here?" she questioned, leaning against the door frame as if it were a casual visit. I didn't even attempt to ease into it. "Did you try to steal from me?" I said, holding out my phone with the bank alert still shown on the screen. My voice was definitely louder than necessary, but I couldn't help it. I was pissed. Her face froze for a second and I wondered if she'd lie. Perhaps she'll deny it. But no. Instead, she rolled her eyes as if I was exaggerating and added, "Oh, come on. You weren't going to help me. So what choice did I have?" What choice? What did she have? I looked at her, perplexed. Do you even hear yourself? You tried to steal from me because I wouldn't bail you out of your own mess. That's not just wrong, Lena. That's illegal. She shrugged. Actually shrugged. Like we were discussing borrowing a sweater or something. Mom and Dad said you'd come around eventually, she explained, crossing her arms. They told me to push you harder, that you'd cave if I made it serious enough. I couldn't believe what I heard. You've got to be kidding me, I told her. They encouraged you to do this? To commit fraud? Do you even realize how insane that sounds? They didn't tell me to commit fraud, she admitted. They just said you wouldn't let me sink if you thought I was really in trouble. And guess what? I'm in trouble. I do not have anyone else to turn to. I was so enraged that I couldn't think clearly. You don't have anyone else to turn to because you've burned every bridge you've ever had. I gasped. This isn't just about the money, Lena. It's about the fact that you've never taken responsibility for anything in your life. And now you're dragging me into your mess because you're too selfish to deal with the consequences of your own actions. She did not even flinch. You're being dramatic, she said to me, waving me away. It's not like I actually got anything from you. The bank stopped it, didn't they? So what's the big deal? The big deal, I responded, is that you tried. The big deal is that you thought you had the right to steal from me just because you're too lazy to clean up your own mess. And the even bigger deal is that Mom and Dad think this is okay. That finally seemed to get under her skin. Her face contorted into a mix of fury and shame. Instead of apologizing, she doubled down. You think you're so much better than me, don't you? She quipped. Just because you've got your fancy job and your stupid house, you think you can sit there and judge me? Well, guess what, big brother? You wouldn't be where you are without Mom and Dad. They sacrificed everything for us, and this is how you repay them. I laughed, but not in a happy way. It was the kind of chuckle that bursts out when you're frustrated and don't know what else to do. Mom and Dad didn't sacrifice anything for me, I told her. I paid rent at 18. I put myself through college. Every sacrifice they made was for you, Lena. They handed you everything on a silver platter while I was left to figure things out on my own. So don't even try to pull the family loyalty card with me. She didn't respond to that. Perhaps she did, but she didn't say it aloud. Instead, she just stood there, staring at me as if I were the evil guy in all of this. I could not handle it anymore. You know what? I asked, walking back toward the door. I'm done. I'm done with you. I'm done with Mom and Dad, and I'm done with this entire toxic family dynamic. You want to ruin your shitty life? Fine. But you're not taking me down with you. I left before she could say anything further. On the way home, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles became white. I was angry, yes, but more importantly, I was hurt. Not just by Lena but also by my parents. How could they think this was acceptable? How could they justify pushing her to do anything like this? When I arrived home, I sat down and wrote a checklist of everything I needed to do to protect myself. I called my bank to confirm that my accounts were secure. I updated all of my passwords. I even called a lawyer acquaintance to see what my alternatives were if Lena did this again. He said I could press charges if I wanted, but I wasn't ready yet. That night I hardly slept. I kept repeating the conversation in my mind, wondering how I could have handled it differently. But deep inside I knew the truth. No matter what I said or did, Lena refused to change. And as long as my parents continued to enable her, she would never have to. After the argument with Lena, I believed things couldn't get much worse. I mean, how much deeper would they sink? It turns out that I misjudged my family's ability to make bad situations worse. It began around a week later. My folks arrived at my home. They didn't call or text. They just stood on my porch as if they owned the house. I pondered not opening the door, but I knew they'd keep ringing it until I gave in. So I opened it. My mother didn't bother to greet me. She shoved me as if she was entitled to be there, her face flushed with rage. My father followed her inside, visibly uncomfortable but clearly there to support her. I shut the door, took a deep breath and prepared myself. This has gone far enough, my mother cried, swinging around to face me. We need to talk. I crossed my arms. I think we've already said everything that needs to be said. No, we haven't, she replied. You need to stop this nonsense and help your sister. She's family. She's your responsibility. I glanced at her, stunned. My obligation? She made me angry. Lena is a grown adult who got herself into this mess. I'm not her parent and I'm certainly not her ATM. My mother's face contorted with frustration. Do you think we like asking you for help? Do you think this is easy for us? This is about family loyalty. You don't just abandon your family when things get tough. I laughed bitterly. You mean the loyalty you showed when you charged me rent at 18? Or when you made me pay for my own college while Lena got everything handed to her? Or how about when you let her screw up over and over again and just expected me to fix it? Yeah, no thanks. My father finally spoke up, his voice low and serious. Do you think we've had an easy life, raising 2 kids and trying to give you both the best we could? We sacrificed so much for you. Stop, I interjected, cutting him off. Just stop. Every sacrifice you made was for Lena. Every time something went wrong, you bent over yourself to fix it for her, leaving me to fend for myself. And you know what? That's okay. I don't need your support and I never have. Nevertheless, don't stand here lecturing me on loyalty when you've been tolerating her awful behavior for years. My mother's face grew blazing red and I knew she was about to lose it. If you don't help her, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life, she said. Do you want her to end up on the streets? Do you want her blood on your hands? So there it was. The same guilt trip she attempted to perform on the phone call. I could feel my blood boiling. I simply did not grasp their logic. I'm not responsible for what happens to Lena, I told her. She made her choices. If she ends up on the streets, that's on her, and on you, for never teaching her how to be accountable for her actions. My mother was virtually shivering with wrath by this point. Fine, she snapped. If this is the kind of person you want to be, don't expect us to be there for you when you need us. I laughed, but there was nothing funny about it. I've never needed you, I replied bitterly, and after this I never will. For a minute the room was completely silent. My father seemed to want to say something, but he didn't. My mother simply scowled at me, her chest rising as if she were about to explode. Then, without saying anything further, she turned and stormed out. My father followed her, but he halted at the door to give me one more look, which was a mix of disappointment and something else I couldn't quite identify. Perhaps regret. Then he departed too. As soon as the door shut behind them, I felt an enormous sense of relief. I didn't care about their approbation, guilt trips, or their toxic concept of family devotion. I was finished. Of course they weren't. The next day my mother sent me an email. It was long and rambling, full of typical guilt-tripping gibberish. She accused me of ungratefulness and cruelty. She accused me of abandoning my family in their hour of need and breaking her heart. She also suggested that she and my father would cut me out of their will, as if it was supposed to intimidate me into obedience. I did not respond. What was the point? Then Lena started up again. She sent me a theatrical text about how she was losing everything and how it was entirely my responsibility. She claimed she had to sell her car, was behind on rent, and was being harassed by her creditors. Honestly, I did not feel horrible. She dug her own pit. Now she had to deal with it. A few days later, I received a letter in the mail, not from my family but from a lawyer. My parents threatened to sue me. The letter asserted that I had a moral obligation to aid Lena, and that neglecting to do so had irreversibly hurt the family. It was pretty funny. I sent the letter to my own lawyer, who told me that it was total nonsense. They didn't have anything to stand on and nothing came of it. But the fact that they even tried that was enough for me. I was finished. I'm done with Lena, my parents, and the unhealthy family dynamic. I blocked their numbers, removed them from social media, and informed the few relatives I still interacted with that I didn't want to hear anything about my parents or Lena. Most of them understood, though a few attempted to persuade me to find a way to make peace. I shut that down quickly. Peace was impossible with folks who considered me as nothing more than a safety net for Lena's poor choices. I'm miserable right now. Do you think it's typical for a family to go thus far? Final update. Hello again. I decided to post a final update once I'd figured everything out. So here goes. After tossing that lawyer's letter and mailing it to my lawyer just in case, I finally made the decision that had been looming over me for years. I was going no contact completely and permanently. I'd been holding out hope that my family situation would change. However, the lawyer's stunt served as sufficient proof. They were not going to stop. If anything, they were intensifying their destructive conduct, and I wasn't going to let them drag me deeper into their insanity. So, I went into full-on block mode. Everyone received the chop, including my mother, father, and Lena. I blocked their phone numbers, email addresses, and everything. Honestly, pushing the block button felt strangely satisfying. I then went through my social media accounts and deleted them as well. There was no way I was leaving any doors open for them to slip back in. I sent a fast text to the few family members I truly like, largely cousins, informing them that I was done with the family drama and requesting them not to play messenger for anyone. Most of them were unconcerned about it. But of course, a couple of people hit me with the, "But they're your family" guilt trip. My short and sweet response: being family does not give you the right to treat me poorly. The most difficult part was explaining the issue to several mutual friends who knew my parents. Some of them couldn't believe what I was telling them. They couldn't believe that my parents and sister had tried to steal from me, guilt me, and now sue me. One acquaintance even remarked, "Are you sure there's not more to the story?" As if I'd somehow overlooked the part where this was entirely my fault. I felt terrible, but I let go. The people who mattered believed me, and that was sufficient. The first week of no interaction was challenging. I didn't miss them, but they didn't give up easily. Despite having their numbers blocked, they found ways to get through. My mother began phoning from unfamiliar numbers, leaving lengthy, dramatic voicemails about how I was pulling the family apart. She'd say, "We just want to talk." Or, "You're punishing us for trying to do the right thing." It was exhausting. I didn't listen to the majority of the messages and deleted them as soon as I recognized who they were from. Then there came the letters. My parents must have gone directly from their lawyer's office to the post office, since the letters began arriving almost immediately. Initially they were mostly gibberish. My mother wrote pages on how much she sacrificed for me and how I broke her heart. My father also chimed in, albeit his letters were more direct. One of them actually said, "If you don't help Lena, don't expect us to ever forgive you." Excuse me. For what purpose exactly? For not allowing my sister to steal from me? For not enabling her terrible choices? The sheer arrogance of it was almost comical. By the second week, their communications had gone entirely off track. My mother's letters were desperate and nearly insane, with vague warnings like, "You'll regret this one day and you'll be sorry when it's too late." It was all guilt and gloom, as if she was trying to scare me back into line. My father, however, did not hold back. His messages were caustic, calling me selfish, ungrateful, and arrogant. He complained about how I had forgotten where I came from and was betraying the people who made you who you are. It was no longer just guilt. They seemed to be attempting to break me down, as if they couldn't bear the thought of losing control of me. And then there was Lena. Oh, Lena wasted no time portraying the victim. She sent me this long handwritten letter, most likely because she knew I'd banned her emails, stating how much I'd hurt her and how she couldn't believe I'd forsake her in her time of need. She penned things like, "You've always been my rock and now you're just leaving me to drown. I thought you cared about me, but clearly I was wrong." But I could not believe her audacity. She closed the letter by requesting money again. This time she requested a $5,000 loan to help her get back on her feet, rather than the $40,000 in total she'd previously asked for. She even offered to repay me as soon as circumstances were better. I laughed so hard I almost cried. After everything she'd done, she was expecting me to fall for it? But my mother went completely insane when she showed up at my office. Yes, she showed up to my workplace unexpectedly. She stormed into the lobby and demanded to see me. And when the receptionist refused to budge, she lost it. She began yelling loudly enough for the entire building to hear, calling me a terrible son and screaming about how I was ruining the family. Security had to intervene and physically escort her out. I stood motionless on the mezzanine, witnessing the entire thing. My coworkers didn't say anything, but their expressions were utter shock. I wished the dirt would swallow me entirely. That was it. I had had enough. I wasn't just upset, I was done. That night I phoned a family lawyer. Not the friend I had casually consulted previously, but an actual professional. I laid out everything: harassment, entitlement, and lunacy. She listened, asked a few pointed questions, and then told me exactly what to do. The following day we drafted a cease and desist letter. It was sent to everyone, including my mother, father, Lena, and their lawyer. The message was clear: if you approach me again, I will take legal action. No exclusions. I didn't think they'd stop, but surprisingly it worked. My mother's call stopped. The nasty letters vanished. Even Lena, the queen of guilt trips, went radio silent. 6 months after cutting ties, life feels different. Quieter, lighter, and frankly better. It wasn't easy, but putting myself first over my family's constant chaos was the best decision I've ever made. Of course, not everyone understands it. A few relatives still use the tired line, but they're your family. Do you know what I say to that? Family means nothing if they don't respect you. Blood does not give anyone the right to disrupt your peace. You do not owe anyone your time, money, or sanity simply because you share DNA. Boundaries are not harsh. They are necessary. Honestly, cutting them off was the best thing I've ever done. With the drama behind me, I threw myself into work and finally received the promotion I had been chasing for years. The little I've heard about Lena suggests that she's still struggling. She's currently working part-time and living with a friend after losing her apartment. I no longer feel bad about it. She made her bed. My parents continue to share their story with anyone who will listen, but fewer people are buying it these days. It's liberating not to care. I've also begun reconnecting with people I'd lost touch with, including friends and a few cousins, and have even opened up to someone I'm currently dating. They've been extremely supportive, and for the first time, I feel as if I'm surrounded by people who genuinely respect me. I understand how difficult dealing with a toxic family can be, but things get better. Cutting them off felt like ripping off a bandage, but the peace that followed was worth the pain.